Gerard is the Assistant Principal Senior Policy Advisor for the Department of Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, and he's responsible for project management, research and policy support for the expert group on future skills need.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gerard.
Just this one, is it? Yeah. So thank you very much for the invitation to be here this afternoon. I know I'm the last speaker, so I'm going to be brief. I've got 7 slides to go through. I wanted just to relate to you the work that the Expert Group on Future Skills Need did on big data analytics skills demand. It completed just over a year ago, in fact. And to say a little bit about the Expert Group on Future Skills Needs, it's a body that's been appointed by government and has different government departments on it, as well as business. And in relation to each project that we undertake, we also have a steering group. And in relation to this one, we had several businesses like IBM and Accenture, Deloitte, and then indigenous companies like Nathium and Data Hub on it, as well as Enterprise Ireland and ITA, the Department of Education and Skills, and the Higher Education Authority. So what we hope to do in terms of our research work basically isn't just to arrive at a particular piece of work at the end and that's complete, but to bring the different groups and partners that have a stakeholding within that research along the research process, and in terms of the recommendations that are made, there's probably a better chance of those actually being implemented. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end. So in terms of the particular piece of work, to assess the current and emerging qualifications, skill sets and competencies required, and to advance recommendations, and this was a study that was an input to the government's action plan for jobs. In terms of, I suppose, looking at data analytic employment within Ireland, one little piece that was done was to look at the particular sectors, and there was a piece of analysis done that looked at the data intensity of sectors within Ireland using certain CSO data sets. And just in relation to that piece of work, you can see that obviously the finance and insurance sector, ICT sector, manufacturing, they're all pretty high up there in terms of their relative use of data analytics within Ireland. And probably you can see then at that time the public sector was perhaps relatively low in relation to its usage of big data analytics. But the message from this was really that data analytics and analytics was becoming increasingly important across all sectors of employment. And the thing that came out as well was that it wasn't just maybe the term big data that was important. What was also thought was that small data is also important, because there are SMEs that don't have quite the scale of velocity and variety of data than big companies, but equally it's of equal importance to them in terms of the particular products, the processes that they are involved within, in terms of developing value from that information. So just in terms of looking at, I suppose, different categories of skill sets, and drawn upon the McKinsey model work that was done, there's 3 main categories that were identified and analysed. One is deep analytical talent, that's people with a combination of advanced computing, statistical, business skills, problem solving, communication skills, and they're small relatively in number, but very important in terms of the ecosystem, and they're identified both internationally within Ireland as being the hardest to source. The second group are what could be termed big data savvy talent, which are managers and maybe accountants and people in different functional areas who need to have an awareness of the use and application of big data, and how to actually make use of it to develop value for the organisation. And then the third group are those who work in ICT supporting technology roles, ICT professionals in terms of developing, implementing, maintaining hardware and software tools and managing the databases to extract value from a variety of data. And there are some other related roles there, maybe smaller, but around finance, legal, internal audit and risk controls, who also have a particular role in this area. And across all of those particular occupations, there are softer skills such as business acumen, ethics, which has come up, communication, teamwork and problem solving as key requirements. So just a diagrammic maybe presentation of how those different groups all relate together. The big data analytic savvy people who frame the questions to be answered from the data, the deep analytical talent who actually do the analysis itself and to derive insight, the people in the supporting technology roles who develop, implement and maintain the hardware to enable all this to happen, and then the outcome, whether it's a private or a public body, to make better decisions in terms of creating additional value for the enterprise or the establishment. In terms of the looking at the demand for these roles within Ireland, we did some scenario work and to understand how demand would evolve up to 2020, looking at certain outcomes, looking at international domestic research, qualitative research which we undertook with companies and key informants within Ireland, sectoral employment forecast work of the Irish economy, and also usage of IDA estimates of inward investment potential into the country over the next 5 years in this area also. And so in terms of the high growth scenario, it was estimated there was a baseline employment within Ireland of possibly of around 35,000 people in these roles in 2013, and that this could grow to 63,000 in 2020, of which 2/3 would be expansion demand and 1/3 would be upskilling. That's the upskilling of people already in employment, particularly those in big data savvy roles. And in terms of the potential job openings arising from expansion and replacement demand, expansion is where employment is increasing, replacement is where people have to be replaced because every year there's people leaving the workforce for particular reasons. In data analytics, over that period of time, about 3,600 vacancies arising in the big data, all from expansion demand, the big data savvy about 17.5, and those in ICT professional roles about 8,800. The later roles supporting technology, we had previously done the work around this in terms of all sectors of the economy within Ireland, and indeed there's a government ICT action plan which aims to increase the number of ICT professionals graduating from domestic institutions within Ireland over the next number of years. So that's a particular area that has currently been addressed. We also looked at the particular programmes that provide the skills, as it were, for roles within this particular area. And indeed, one of the things we did was to produce a compilation of those programmes. And you can see the particular range of them there, from dedicated big data programmes. There was about 18 of them at the time that we looked at them. For example, the one that IBM are running MSc with DCU, the one that AMC down in Cork are run with University College Cork, and indeed with Cork Institute of Technology. Other programmes run by the Smurfitts Business School, by UCD in terms of online programmes, for example. National College of Ireland, they run programmes in this area as well. So maybe smaller in number but increasing in size. Programmes with significant level of training elements. There were about 18 of those. And then, as you can see, moving down, there are perhaps courses which aren't maybe dedicated ones, but they're courses and disciplines from which people that can fulfil those roles can be supplied. And I suppose one of the things, certainly in relation to deep analytics, that we came across was that, maybe it's still to be decided, what are the best disciplines that these people can be developed from, because we found cases where, for example, in Glanbia, there was a data analytics person who was recruited from an archaeology course. I mean, archaeologists are very good at looking at, detail and numbers and facts and everything, and they're the kind of skills that a person maybe needs in that particular area. So, Insight that we heard later on is another example of a particular research programme in that sense, but they're also involved in people who are doing MSCs, for example, who can be developed. So in terms of the recommendations, moving to the very last slide, and one is the need to higher education and enterprise to collaborate in the development of an output and quality and relevance of data analytic programmes. And as I said earlier, there are a number of these that are ongoing at the moment, and certainly interdisciplinary skills are becoming increasingly important. And also throws up the need for collaborations within different departments, within institutions, because no particular discipline necessarily provides the skills needed in terms of these roles. To increase the domestic output of data analytics savvy talent, and industry as well as higher education has a key role to play in this area. To improve senior executive understanding, both in the public and private sector, of the potential of data analytics for business performance, and the need for an enterprise-wide approach to data analytics capabilities is essential, including provision of career paths and the upskilling of talent. To promote Ireland internationally as a centre for analytical talent, and indeed a single website portal has been developed within the ICT Skills Action Plan for high-level ICT skills as well as data analytic skills for the attraction of experienced talent from abroad, including expatriate talent. To inspire the next generation of analytical talent, communicate career opportunities in analytics to students and their parents and teachers, in particular to females, as we've heard a short time ago, because in fact in ICT, for example, only about 16% of those that undertake ICT disciplines are female. And the last point, and this came up this morning in a number of presentations, is to unlock the potential of data analytics and big data in the public services. And we've heard, for example, this morning the example of the Dublin City partnership with IBM, Smarter Cities Technology, and there's also work going on within the public sector reform and e-government. So that's a fairly concise run-through of the findings and research, and again, thank you for the invitation.